Hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. I'm John Peterson from the Arlington Institute, and I'm joined every 2 weeks by our friend Gregg Braden, and we do a deep dive into what's up, whatever's on our minds. Hi, Greg. How are you today?
John, I am doing really well. I'm coming to you on a beautiful early summer day here in the high desert of northern New Mexico, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with you today.
We have been drenched with rain, never-ending rain for weeks now, seemingly here in West Virginia, but the sun is shining momentarily, at least for the moment. And so it's a pretty day here. So how you doing, my friend? What's
I'm
up?
good. It's a good day to have a conversation about what's up.
Yeah, yeah. What's up? What do you
You
got on your
know,
mind?
John, we have these conversations every couple of weeks. We talk about a lot of hypotheticals. What would be and what would we do? And I'm interested in those. We just finished a quartet where we actually were talking about wild card events that could impact our our society, our planet. And we opened the door to a conversation on one that we know with absolute certainty is going to happen. The event will happen. The wild card is what are the impacts? And that is on April 13th of the year 2029. We know that Earth is going to experience something that has never happened in this way before, a near miss of an asteroid. The asteroid is called Apophis. It's not as big as the one that impacted the Earth 66 million years ago and ended the life of the dinosaurs. It is about the size of the Empire State Building, which is significant. What the scientists are telling us, I've been researching this pretty much since it was announced as a geologist. My background in math, physics, computer science, and geology all come together to help me personally to understand what something like this means. I'm interested in how it's being downplayed in the media. Not only downplayed, some people joke about it. The news anchors make fun of it. Um, and I think the reason they do that is to set the public's mind at ease, but maybe doing a disservice to the magnitude of the event. John, it's going to come so close that it is actually below the orbit of many of our communication satellites. So, people say, well, we don't want to be fear mongering. There's so much going on in the world right now. And that's true. There's a lot going on. But I think this event has the potential, a couple of potentials. The optimist in me, John, wants to look at this and say, something like this that faces every single human on the face of the earth could be a powerfully unifying factor. It could have a unifying effect on the people of the earth. We've seen movies like this and we've seen books written about it. That could happen. And the number two, what potentially, even if it doesn't impact the earth, what would that mean? And as a communications guy, I know you've got some real strong thoughts about that in terms of radio, electromagnetism,
Yeah.
satellites. So I'm just curious, have you looked into this much and what
No,
are your
no, I
thoughts
think
about
this
this?
is really interesting that you would bring this up. You've kind of alluded to it in the past a little bit, but um, I think it's interesting in the context of if you take a broad look at what's going on this planet right now, I mean, from the perspective of a futurist at least, and see it as from a systems point of view and such,
Yeah.
what you come to the conclusion, or at least I have, is that there is some known existential event
Yeah.
that is on our near horizon that is that the powers that be, whoever they are aware of, and that is driving a lot of this underground construction and
Yeah.
any number of other kind of things that are going on all over the place. Now, there's a whole spectrum. There's a little laundry list of potential events, including a solar flare and some kind of a geophysical thing on the Earth, a super volcano. I mean, there's a variety of things, to say nothing about what the impact might be of technology like AI and what the manifestation might be and the way that it could really change things. In any case, there is something out there, but this is really interesting because it is a known, I mean, you got more details and more information about this than about anything else. Uh, I like it as a known event, as a known kind of event of great significance that we could start to plan for and look at and
Yeah.
consider. There's a whole spectrum of ways you could do that. I mean, you could constitute a meditation psychic group that to try to make it go further out or some other kind of. I mean, there's this wonderful kind of opportunity here for to change what seems to be the all the math and all your equations are telling you what the thing is going to do. Uh, but if it comes the way that you're suggesting, and apparently, the indicators are, then what I think is you just can't have something like that coming through. First of all, I mean, it does not kind of exist as an isolated chunk of rock. It's got almost a field around the thing, and it's got some kind of a gravitational interaction that is all in play here. So, I mean, you can't just say it's not going to hit the Earth. You got to say, well, it's going to impact all kinds of things. Well, when it comes flying through the huge number of satellites that are parked I mean, there are thousands and thousands of them that are in your Earth orbit. I mean, you got this thing that's going to tear out and just raise havoc with communications and intelligence and all kinds of different aspects of the thing. And so even if it doesn't hit the Earth, and even if it doesn't, come interact and cause volcanoes or any number of other kind of things it could do, it's certainly going to take out probably and affect the ionosphere and the way you could do conventional communications. But this is a wonderful kind. I mean, to the extent that it's wonderful at all, it's a wonderful kind of event to plan for around alternative communications, which I'm involved in here in Berkeley Springs, is to build all backup communication systems so that if nothing else works, that we can still communicate. And so I mean, I'm going to stick a pin in the map, almost, and in terms of planning for our local community, saying here's one thing that's coming for sure, and the impact is has the potential of being significant, if not catastrophic, and we need to plan for it.
Yeah, yeah. As again, as a geologist, I'm fascinated by this. It's an opportunity for me to exercise my training and in a real world event. What the studies right now are suggesting, although it's a near miss, is that Earth's gravity will create essentially tremors on the asteroid itself, and those tremors they're acknowledging that. They say that Apophis will experience those tremors. What they're not saying, and what I suspect, is those tremors would be enough for fragments of that asteroid to come off, and Earth's gravity pulling a smaller body into our gravitational field. Hopefully, they would burn up in the atmosphere. If they're large enough, they won't. And so that is, I think, a very real possibility. And then again, as a systems thinker, these things, for me, these things aren't happening in a vacuum. We're barreling down the road toward the year 2030 that has been earmarked by organizations all the way from the UN to independent organizations as a year where the social engineering and the political changes that they are wanting to happen. They want those accomplished by the year 2030. And like you said, we know something has been driving that. Uh, the wars that we're seeing right now, the geoengineering of our planet, pushing us back into a climate that we haven't seen since the Pleistocene era. We're seeing so many factors that suggest that Earth is being prepared for something. My personal view is that we're being prepared for occupation. I don't use the word invasion. I don't know that it has to be an invasion, although it may be, but certainly an occupation of a higher intelligence that doesn't function well in the climate that we have now, and with the population that we have now. Our population is being reduced through war and disease, infertility. Nations are being encouraged to fight against other nations to deplete their resources, their armaments, their ability to defend themselves. And when you ask who benefits from that, it's not us, it's not the people of the earth. So when we look at Apophis, the asteroid, from that perspective, uh, is it possible that that event then opens the door to that occupation? Maybe we get some help. Maybe there's a technology, or maybe we already have the technology that could actually deflect something incoming in that way, and the opportunity for cooperation, maybe a level of interstellar cooperation that we read about in our ancient texts as historic events, and most people write them off as fairy tales because that's what our academia encourages us to do. But what if those stories from the past are telling us about a cyclic event that has happened before, and we're barreling down the road toward that? We're watching the power structures of the world jockey to be in the best position to centralized economies, to centralize finance, to digitize the world, to reduce the population, so that they are in the best position when this happens. So I think that all of these could be powerful catalysts, John, in the awakening that we know is
Right.
already underway.
We have to become a new human, and that gives you the opportunity to rise to the new occasion. So I'm with you completely
So,
there.
John, let's just talk. I mean, very realistically, our community is not going to hear this in the mainstream. What kind of impacts, from my perspective? Now, I've done some math. There is a very well-known formula, Isaac Newton formula on gravitational fields, and it's complex, but anybody can work them out. And there is a gravitational field from the asteroid. There's a larger one from the Earth. They interact. Those are going to have an effect seismically on the Earth. At the very least, I would think a tidal effect, an effect of the on the oceans, at least. I don't know yet with certainty what part of the Earth this passes. I mean, it's going to be pretty quick when it happens. But if you can imagine something, a chunk of rock the size of the Empire State Building, coming lower than, they're projecting 19,500 feet above the surface of the Earth, a tidal wave effect of some kind, possibly a tectonic effect. Now,
Right.
I'm very concerned about this. I'm actually doing a presentation at Gaia at the end of August that will be televised, and it is on the cyclic uh, process that we see every 12 to 13,000 years of volcanic activity, what are called super volcanoes, that change the climate by releasing sulfur dioxide and dust into the air at a magnitude that that is paradigm altering. It changes everything on Earth for a period of time. Last time we saw this was the Younger Dryas, about 12,000 years ago. It happened 12,000 years before that. It happened 13,000 years before that. It happened 9,000 years before that, and another 12,000 years before that.
I think it'd be interesting to understand the projected kind of orbit and how does it come by the Earth? Does it come by as a grazing thing down at the side? Does it turn and go around? I mean, if it comes back in 7 years, it must make a loop and come
It,
back, and then
yeah. I think what I've seen, John, and again, I'm not the NASA expert on this, but it looks like Earth's gravitational field affects it, but it doesn't capture it.
Yeah, right.
So what I mean by that is it's coming in, and the gravitational field will affect it in kind of a slingshot
Right.
trajectory, where it rotates. I don't know if it does a complete orbit, but it rotates and then is flung off, but then it comes back in about 7 years. And John, I mean, this opens up the door to so many questions. We all know that we have technologies that have never been publicly announced.
Well, like I said earlier, I mean, it's also an opportunity to try to use human consciousness
Yeah.
to influence the whole thing. I mean, what a wonderful example that would be to get a whole lot of people who are, working on it in a pointed, focused way.
John, I want to ask you, as a ham radio expert, would something like that, a projectile and going through the ionosphere, how would that impact ham radio, for example?
You'd have ham radio operators trying to bounce signals off it and see if they could communicate off it, at least. No, the amateur radio works at the high frequency bands, at the shortwave bands, by bouncing signals off of the ionosphere.
Right.
And they call it skip, and they run it, and you can do multiple skips. That's how you get to the backside of the planet with it, with this kind of technology. And the again, I mean, I don't think this thing can come flying through here at that level and not just tear holes in the middle of all of the existing structure, whether it's the energetic structure or the magnetic structure or the physical kind of things like satellites.
Well, like we said earlier, it may help to understand why the urgency to create so much big change in such a
Yeah,
short period of time. I
yeah,
mean, our human emotions, human psychology, we're not really wired in a single generation to we can adapt certainly, but psychologically and emotionally we're not really wired for the magnitudes of change. And
yeah,
I was leading groups, so we had a group in the Holy Lands, certainly before the war happened. It was, I think, I don't know, the year 2022, and we were on a high point in northern Israel, and we could actually see bombing happening in Syria, and below us in the valley were UN troops. And I went down to a cafe and I met some of those troops, and I said, why can't you guys go and pull those civilians out? Let let the military go at it, but pull out the people that have no food, no water, no way to defend themselves. And his answer to me told the whole story. He said, I'm a UN observer.
yeah,
And I said, what does that mean? He says, I cannot be involved. I can observe. I said, so you're going to observe the massacre of those civilians? And he said, I don't like it any more than you do, but that's my job. And that was an eye opener for me. I mean, I knew that that was happening, but to actually have that interaction really helped me understand how powerless and how worthless the UN is in those kinds of events and those circumstances.
well, on that happy note, we
Yeah.
need, we
Well,
need to,
let's end on a happy note, John. I think we're talking about an event that is going to happen with certainty, and it's our choice how we respond to it.
yeah,
And I think that could be this is one of several possible events that could be the catalyst that unifies
yeah.
this planet and that drives us beyond our differences to look at one another and wake up and say, what were we thinking? Let's We're worth
Right.
preserving. This world is worth preserving, and let's do this differently.
So thank you very much, my friend. And for all of you who are viewers here, thanks for being with us. This little program and project comes to you from the Arlington Institute, which is located in our little resort town of Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, just down the road from Washington and Baltimore. And Greg and I get together like this every 2 weeks for an unstructured, unplanned kind of
Yeah.
conversation about something that's related in some way to the big change that's going on in the world and where we're all going and how to get there and, how to prepare ourselves. And so we hope that you'll come back again in 2 weeks, and we'll be here. Thanks for being here again. Appreciate it. See you next time.
Thank you for the conversation, Sean. I just want to thank everyone for joining. I love you all. Take care. I look forward to our next.